it felt like the owners almost staged the tenants. I'm not even joking. I've never had such positive feedback on every single unit and every single tenant. No matter what I've walked into, there's always been situations where tenants will comment about something. So we have a new property in Phoenix, Arizona. I literally got back last night. I went with John, our property manager, and oddly enough, when I first got there, I was not happy with it.
Why is that?
Because the pocket that it sits in is less than desirable.
In what way?
It's a bit grungy. The surrounding area. And I'm not even talking about multiple blocks. I'm talking about literally like the street over. Like just the street over even. However, as soon as you start going a block or two outside of that, it really cleans up. And then as soon as you go a block, where were we? Maybe actually east or west, the properties in that area are pushing $750,000 million bucks. And the fact that this property sits in a very small pocket of gentrifying, now it's gentrifying, is much more attractive than a property sitting in a really good location. Than on the outskirts it's bad. Wherever you went on the outskirts of that property, it was amazing. It was really good. Even 5 minutes out from that property, you're in downtown Phoenix.
I also feel like that's common in larger cities. Like if you think of real estate in Toronto, you could have a $20 million condo right next to a shithole, like 1 block away. Now,
the reason why I like this property even more now, because of the fact that that specific little tiny, it's very small. I wouldn't even call it it's not even a sub-market. It's like
like a block.
Yeah, it's like not. You can't even call it a sub-market. It's too small for its own sub-market. You can't even call it its own sub-market cluster. It's literally like it's block, like quarter mile radius, even maybe not even a quarter mile. It's even smaller than that. The reason why I like it even more is because you're buying not even the ugly duckling on the block. What you're buying is a diamond in the rough on the block. Where down the street you have $1 million homes. You have an area that is somewhat suppressed because of a few things around it. Like, for example, there's actually a trailer park behind it. The advantage of that, though, is a developer just bought the trailer park and he's putting high-rise luxury condos in it. Like, he's knocking it down, and that's what he's going to do. But what's really interesting is the adjacent street that this property's on. Yes, whatever. It's a street that the property, like, I guess, neighbors. You have homes that they don't look the greatest, but they're worth around $400,000, which is kind of crazy. But it's the only kind of style of property, I guess you could say, in the area that's that type of condition, and everywhere else is amazing, right? Very clean. Even that area, very clean, but tired. Property condition is very old. It's tired. It's, dilapidated a little bit. But this particular pocket of area, historically speaking, maybe going back, 5 years ago or whatever, it wasn't the greatest. All right. So what's happened is because you're in so close to the Phoenix core, the Phoenix downtown core, people are starting to move out, just like Miami and North Miami. Exactly what happened there. Now, the only difference with North Miami, this property is actually different. The submarket in North Miami that we bought in the submarket cluster, the Sans Souci submarket cluster, was amazing. In that actual vicinity of that property, walking distance, you had multi-million-dollar homes, like on the water, all that stuff. But you start going out of that submarket cluster, it starts to get rougher. And the gentrification is pushing out. Whereas this one, the looks of it is rough, but it's not actually rough because it's already weeded the bad apples out of the area. So walking through the property, I asked every single person in that property. We toured every single unit. There was 2 units that we couldn't get into. I'll get into that in a minute. I asked every single woman in there. There's a couple things that I did. The majority of the property actually was women that lived in there. And number one, I love to see that. Okay, love that. Number 2, I love that because every single time I went into the property or in the units, that's the demographic that I want to talk to. And those are the people that I want to talk to because they will tell you if they feel safe on the property and in the area.
Yeah.
Every single person that I talked to said, number 1, they feel safe in the area. Number 2, they love the property and feel safe. And number 3, the location is amazing. They said it's close to everything. It's close to downtown. There's multiple freeways that they have access to in every direction to get out of the city and area. Okay. And to go wherever. It's 20 minutes to Scottsdale. Everywhere. It's so close to everywhere. There's bus stations. There's a bus station right across the street. There's a bus station almost on every single block. You're so close to downtown that public transportation is like amazing in the area. So, and then not only that, but you have a situation where the property is located so close to Phoenix, downtown core, but not close enough where it's actually in the core, where rents are about half the price. So people are just loving it, right? So, that was something that I was shocked to hear. What's the matter? Oh. Yeah. That was something that I was shocked to hear. I've never been to a property where the feedback was so positive that it felt like the owners almost staged the tenants. I'm not even joking. I've never had such positive feedback on every single unit and every single tenant. No matter what I've walked into, there's always been situations where tenants will comment about something. Okay, something about I feel okay. It's okay, safe here, or it's okay here, or this is happening. And then another thing too is I asked every single person how they felt about the tenants in the property. Everybody loved everybody. It was the weirdest fucking thing.
How do you typically start these conversations with tenants?
I just, hey, how's it going? You mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
That's it. Very simple. Because I don't have a lot of time in there. Right? I don't want to disrupt their life, right? Some people are studying. That's another thing too. It's 5 minutes from ASU, right? Downtown core. So there was a couple. There were a couple medical students in there. There was a couple. There was a law student in there.
So turnover on the units would probably be a little higher compared to like a seniors community.
I don't know. Yeah, well, seniors community, yeah. But I mean, I don't know that graduate students like that, they might be
4 years, 6 years.
Yeah, you're gonna get a good quality tenant, good stable tenant. For at least the
and also especially if they're in med school, they might even be looking for a job there afterwards, right?
Yeah, they will be for sure.
So what's the occupancy?
There's 1 unit vacant. The feedback that they're getting on the unit, they're pushing high rent. They're trying to get maximum rent, which is fine. I don't mind that. But the feedback that they keep getting is that the lighting is an issue in the units. And so
just too bright?
What's that?
Too bright?
No, too dark. So essentially the issue that people are having with this particular property is that this was a converted office building. What they should have done during construction was lowered the ceiling a little bit, and because I don't even know if there's room above the ceiling. The ceilings are pretty tall, but in the event they're not able to raise the ceiling, in the event they're not able to bury pot lights in the ceiling, what they should have done was strap the ceiling with 2x2s and put thin LED lights and run them throughout the property. Well, they didn't do that. What they did was they've got a fan with a bulb on it, or like a bulb cluster with a light, or a fan with a light on it, right? What needs to happen is that needs to go away, and there needs to either, number one, be extensive track lighting installed, okay, where it's only running off of one box, one electrical box with LED lighting, so it's not drawing too much current, so that we don't have to install multiple blocks or multiple outlets in the what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. The electrical boxes. So you don't have to install multiple boxes in the ceiling. Or what you do is you do exactly what I said. Strap the ceiling with 2x2s or whatever you can strap it with and run pot lights throughout the property. That would be very expensive. However, that's the common narrative of that particular property. And when I was walking through, that was the one thing that someone had a negative comment about, was that this particular person, now she had lamps fucking everywhere. Like this, I've never seen so many lamps in a property in my life. They obviously love lighting. That was the one comment that she said. She wishes it was brighter. This property, like I was mentioning, it was a converted office building. Office buildings are not necessarily, older office buildings, and
does it have kind of like a more of that industrial feel to it?
It has an industrial feeling. Which is actually pretty cool, and which is more than likely why it's pulling the demographic that's pulling young professionals. Yeah. Like multiple people working at hospitals. There's 3 hospitals within walking distance of this fucking place. Yeah. That's an easy fix though. That's a couple $100 a unit. You get big track lighting, and you can even run track lighting where you ever see those?
Is it a finished ceiling or exposed?
Yeah, it's finished. You can run track lighting where there's like a cover for the electrical wiring across to another track light on the other side of the wall, and you can make it look cool. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can make that shit look cool.
They have them in like galleries or
whatever.
Yeah,
you can make that look really cool. Yeah. Even run it like a even BX cable, and you could strap it to the ceiling to make it look like industrial. And like that's the type. This is the type of property that I really like, because it won't look weird if you do shit like that.
Right.
Get what I mean? And that stuff is cheap. You could really run. It would be even easy to run track lighting, not even track lighting, but pot lights, where you're sinking it into not even sinking it into the ceiling, but strapping it to the ceiling without even popping it into the ceiling. You could do some sort of lighting like that. I've seen that in properties, and it actually looks okay. Yeah. In the right environment, it does not look okay if it's kind of that homey feel. It won't look okay. Another thing I love about the property is the flooring. It's stained cement, like polished stained cement. So a big thing that I learned about the Phoenix area is it's extremely pet friendly, and everybody's got fucking pets there. Everybody. And a lot of people have dogs, and a lot of people have like kind of bigger dogs. So the advantage of obviously having stained cement is that you got a floor for life. Yeah. Like nothing will ever happen to that fucking floor. Yeah. So that's a big thing, because flooring is the biggest issue when you're moving in and out of these places. How's the flooring look? Because painting's simple, but if you're tearing up the floor, like that's a big expense. Yeah. So the flooring's covered, everything is covered. Like it's got everything is new in this property. It's got new HVAC, it's got new plumbing, new electrical, everything, new hot water heaters. It's got in-unit laundry. The properties are, on a per square foot basis, they're a lot bigger than average. One of the things that I noticed about the area was a lot of, like, say, for example, the 2-bedroom units have 2-bedroom, 2-bath. This and the 2 bedrooms have 2-bed, 1-bath, but the overall size of the property or the units is a lot larger.
Yeah. Do you know like the average square feet of
it's like 1,000 units or 1,000 square feet
for the 2 beds?
For the 2 beds, no. The 2 beds you're looking at like, man, maybe. Yeah, about 1,000 to 1,100, which is pretty big.
It's a good size.
Yeah, it's a really big size. So, and the units are huge. The kitchens are huge. They're updated. They're brand new. So that kind of makes up for, number one, the fact that it doesn't have a pool, which is only 23 units. You're not going to typically see a pool on 23 units anyways. Yeah. But it doesn't have a pool. It doesn't have like a barbecue area. It doesn't have, like a dog park. It has Connor will pop up a video here, but it has courtyard space, and a really nice looking courtyard space, right? So, but it's a boutique apartment building now, right? Is what it's been converted to. So you don't see that kind of stuff. You usually see that in larger, because the maintenance and upkeep of a pool, you need to justify it with economies of scale. And 23 units, it's not something that you can justify having something like that with. In fact, if a unit like that had a pool, I would argue that it would make more sense to bury it rather than keeping it, because I find in the U.S. at least, how can I explain this? Americans tend to like the boutique style of apartment buildings over and above, high rises or, large scale properties. Number one, you can more than likely find a parking spot closer to your unit. This particular building has 3 spots per unit on average, which is huge. It's actually a little bit more on a percentage basis. So you can, if you got groceries or whatever, you're going to be closer to your unit versus a larger garden style apartment. Or if somebody is, if there's a lot of people at home at that one time, you might have a problem finding a parking spot near your unit. So that's a huge factor. So that's another reason why people like the boutique stuff. Number 2, people like the community, the sense of community where they know a lot of people on site. You're not going to know everybody if you live in a 200 or 300 unit property, which is like right next door to this particular place. So there's a couple things that advantages over and above a larger scale property that has amenities like a pool, a barbecue area, stuff like that. Some of the plans are, over and above these other units as well. It's got a cool kind of chic industrial type feel. It's all been renovated.
How's the roof?
It's brand new. Roof is brand new. So these are like big pluses, right? Like this is a turnkey fucking operation. The sprinkler system is brand new. The fire suppression system's brand new. Everything is brand new on this particular on this build. Everything's been rehabbed.
Did you get the inspection report back?
Got an inspection report.
Was anything
just dumb
negative
shit
on there?
Just nothing really. Like just dumb shit where the fire what do you call it there? The fire department needs to have a key in the lockbox. There's no keys in the lockbox. Some of the on the Freon lines running from the AC down to the unit. Some of the styrofoam or whatever, you could put like that styrofoam sleeve on the Freon lines, the condenser lines running down. Well, some of it, because of the heat, it's only got really like almost a 1-year shelf life. It's cracked and it's going to be an issue. Like it needs to be replaced, but that's just like a $1. Yeah. It's almost like a pool noodle that you need to put on, right? Yeah. It's a smaller pool noodle for those of you that don't know. But big thing, like there's like a cap for a drain in the parking lot that someone like took off or something happened. I don't even know.
So essentially it's all very small.
Very small. That when I'm going to actually go back to the agent and say, you guys need to fix this. Something that does need to be fixed, and one of the units that we couldn't get into was an Airbnb unit. I want that shit out of there. I don't want.
Is it rezoned as like transient zoning or anything?
No, you can't have it. Like that's not something that we want.
Oh, it's an illegal Airbnb.
Well, like we could allow it if we wanted to, but I don't want to assume that problem.
Right.
Like change the locks. Like there should be a lock. Like we did have a lock. They changed the locks on the management. Like I'm not dealing with that. You clean that shit up.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's a great building. A little bit of value add in terms of bringing in lighting. That's so superficial.
Yeah.
If we were to bring in extensive lighting, and I like the track lighting situation too, because you can run a huge track, right? And then you can allow yourself to position the bulbs wherever you want to allow for lighting in whatever direction that you want.
Put it on a dimmer or something too.
Yeah, and throw that shit on a dimmer, and then you're good to go, right? So I love that option. There's a little tiny bit of value add. But overall, a very stable market, very like a high growth market. Over the next 5 years, the sub-market cluster there is expected to grow by 10%, which is huge, 2% a year.
Yeah. When you were there, like, what did the overall like city feel like? Did it feel like it was like booming and expanding? And was there a lot of construction around?
There's a lot of construction. Mm-hmm. Not nearly as much as Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto has, in terms of its MSA, about 1 million more people. Phoenix MSA has about 4.9. Toronto has about 5.9.
Mm-hmm.
But Toronto's MSA is much bigger. Like the GTA of Toronto is fucking enormous. It runs like 2 hours outside of Toronto, whereas the Phoenix MSA is quite a bit smaller.
Yeah.
So to have 5 million people within a smaller MSA and a cluster in terms of like that MSA, like that amount of people in that kind of density, when I say a lot of construction, but not nearly as much as Toronto, but almost the same population, that's significant.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like what's happening is, number one, they can't build fast enough, which is what I'm also seeing. The absorption rate of people renting properties in the Phoenix MSA is more and higher than what
the build rate
is, right? So that's a very good sign that
What
I'm
are
seeing.
the like landlord-tenant rules in Arizona?
They're very landlord friendly.
Kind of similar to Florida, where you can, if rent, because the average rent is $1,600 or so right now.
About $1,600, yeah.
So if average sub-market rents hit $1,800, $1,900, we can just bump it up to that.
There's no restriction on rent.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's no restriction on rent.
How's incomes in that sub-market?
Higher than average, I think in the 70s.
Nice.
70,000s, about average income. Median income is right around par with the United States, I believe. Maybe high 50s. Maybe high 50s or high 60s. I can't remember exactly which one it is. There's a big difference between median and average.
Yeah.
But average income is in like the 70s, I think, maybe even high 70s.
So
which is great. That's a great
So what are our next steps for Coachwood Capital to kind of close this one up completely? And then what would be the next steps for investors to actually like get involved?
So next steps, soft commit, or for us?
Yeah, so us first.
Okay, so us first. We're going to tighten up the OM. I want to confirm the OM is accurate. I'm going to talk to the lender and confirm what type of lending, especially the LTV. We need to confirm LTV. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have right now is that the share structure in terms of how many LP units may be subject to change somewhat based on the interest rate fluctuating from now until the time we lock in the rate.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is we're going with a Fannie Mae loan from agencies, or an agency Fannie Mae loan, and this is the first Fannie Mae that we're going to be doing. On the first loan that Fannie Mae does with you, they don't allow you to rate lock prior to the loan commitment.
But on subsequent loans, they will?
They will. So the rate is subject to fluctuation, and if the rate is subject to fluctuation within that, say, 3-week period, you have a situation where if the rate increases, your LTV may drop.
Mm-hmm.
So if the LTV drops, it's going to affect the amount of LP units we need to sell off.
Yeah.
So that might be the situation where, at the same time, too, what I can do is if the rates increase, I could pick up the difference. That might be what we can do.
What we could do in that case is essentially where each LP unit is not necessarily equivalent to $1.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. It might be worth 98 cents or something.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's just the value of each LP unit. So if, for example, we need to raise $2 million and we had 2 million LP units, but then we issue 2 million LP units, but the actual raise is 2.2 million or 1.8 million or whatever, the value of each one of those LP units would just shift.
And we can do that after the fact.
You can do that after the fact.
Exactly.
That's easy to do.
So that might be what we how we deal with this.
Yeah, it'll make the investment just a little bit less intuitive. I like how it's kind of like a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's that wouldn't be a big deal whatsoever.
Yeah, and people need to understand when you're dealing with situations like this, where again, inside of the due diligence phase and the financing condition phase and stuff like that, things change slightly, right? You might have a situation where closing costs are more expensive than expected. You can't always anticipate certain costs for everything. It's impossible. For example, North Miami was actually quite a bit more expensive on closing costs than we had first anticipated. That's something that was not.
What I'd actually prefer doing is raising whatever the top end.
Yeah. Which is what we're doing now.
That we can imagine.
Yeah.
Because if it means that the closing costs are actually coming less than the maximum amount, and we have a little bit of a cash reserve up front, in the beginning, if anything pops up, we can use that cash reserve. We don't have to do a capital call.
Yeah.
And then if a few years goes by and we don't need that whatsoever, we can just redistribute it back to investors.
We just pay people back. Yeah. That's it.
I'd much rather that than doing an actual a capital call.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think that's it, eh?
Nice.
Or for
now for investors.
Okay, so for investors, we got to get your soft commitments in. Book your spot for the investment. We've got about what we've got well over the amount that we need to raise. But still, if you're interested in this fund, we still want you to soft commit because we've got opportunities in the future. We want to get your commitment, and then also for people that they commit now, but for whatever reason they don't commit or they don't actually follow through with their commitment, your spot will be in line next after theirs. So if people want to get into this deal in the Phoenix MSA, I suggest you soft commit ASAP.
Okay. And then if people have already soft committed, essentially what are the next steps?
Yeah, so we're going to be sending out OMs. I'd like to send out OMs and also agreements tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Done.